Welcome back to the broadcast. A bit of feedback from you, and before we continue, and Victor Musyoka as well as Wilson Lusiki are saying they are watching, or Victor Musyoka is watching from Ranga University. Wilson Lusiki says Lusiki watching and following conversation from Turkana County where inequality is real, especially in ASOL areas or ASAL areas. And then we also have some other feedback here before we get to learn some more as to what the transitions are like. I think the full meaning as a competency-based curriculum makes sense than the acronym CBC. Well, interesting, because then sometimes people would get confused in the process. And of course, somebody else says the best option ever was the competency-based curriculum, or the CBC, that is Gilbert Kipngeno. And Ryan Phillips says that it is not equal at all. That is the competency-based curriculum. And then there's one person, Franklin Otuku, who says, let 844 be returned, ndio maisha ikuwe smart, ama nitakuwa tu, nitakuwa tu na gharama mingi sana as to CBC. It's very expensive. Or anasema atakuwa single forever because CBC is very expensive and they probably do not want to have struggles with their kids. Interesting. I mean, and I mean, those are valid concerns because it's actually very expensive today. Kiambiwa leta hii, kesho wanakuja, leta hii, tomorrow, you know, it's scaring. Let us not lie to one another or to Kenyans, please. CBC is a game changer. It is totally good. It will always be good till Messiah comes. Let us just improve on some problems like employing enough teachers. That is Ken Kowech. And John, we come back to you as to the transitions. We've gotten to that level of grade 9.
Yeah. So by the time now they are doing the end of grade 9, the Kenya Junior School, the other things continue, assessment, they should now have decided that generally I feel I want to be an artist, you know, or me, what I want to be doing in life is more of the arts, you know, the singing or whatever, recording. So that then you narrow down your subjects to now concentrate on a cluster.
Right.
Across these three pathways, the STEM, the humanities, and then the arts. So when you go now to senior school, then you do another 3 years of not really specializing, but within that general area of careers. And then we will have the first, which will, I think, remain a high-stake examination at the end of grade 12, the KCSE.
Right.
Will now, it has a different name, but it's essentially the same now, university entry examination. So that transition now to university will look similar to how it looks, only that then that time we won't all be, you know, like the clustering now will be based on very different things. And the people that are conversant with the prior A-level, this is kind of similar.
Okay.
Because in the previous A-level, you'd be doing, you know, 3 subjects, either, you know, that are related into the kind of career you are going. Only that here, the subjects range is a little wider. Okay. It's not just 3 subjects. It's a little wider. So it's important that parents understand these transitions, but also the teachers. I think the grade 9 to 10 now transition that we're expecting at the end of this year is going to be a challenge.
All right.
Because we still have not received lists of schools, you know, and their categorization. I hear a selection of schools is now going to happen soon. But now the way the career guidance, you know, has happened, you know, has not been very clear. The preparation of those schools, if it is going to be an arts, you know, school, many schools will have 2 to 3 of the pathways. So we won't just have one school that is only doing one pathway. And the big schools we have now, like national and extra county, might have all the 3 pathways. So because we have not addressed the issue of quality is not equal. When you look at a national school and the sub-county school, and they are both government schools, they are not offering.
You're worlds apart, yeah.
So the STEM I'll go to do in a sub-county school and the STEM I'll go to do in the big school are not not the same. So how is placement going to happen? Because it's not just one variable of I'm in STEM, but I'm also in STEM and I want a better school that has better facilities and better teachers. So all these issues have to be thought through, so that then the learners in those areas we have seen that are very disadvantaged don't now even get more disadvantaged by the transitions.
All right. What does the government need to do? Because while we say that it's a collective responsibility, the burden squarely lies with the government of the day. And it is because it is the very same government that declares that we now are moving which many would have argued, why did you just improve on it? It is working fairly okay. But the government, and you will understand the hand of politics in this, will come to say that we must shift. So what do they need to do so that they can help us again strike this balance?
Yeah, this is now my own thinking. There need to be stabilization, especially one of the things we have observed is with every change of government, there is almost ripple effects even in things that need to be a bit stable. Yeah. Almost like introducing new ideologies, and this is having ripple effects in affecting the students. Top of mind, one of the complaints we get is there's limited capitation that the schools receive. So if we need, for example, even where we observe, honestly, it's so hard, for example, to learn a STEM subject under a tree. Honestly, that will be very extreme. That will be very hard. But in addition to that, I think also we also need to play a role. One of the things John has talked about is the introduction of careers. How can we also support? For example, I remember when I was young, it was hard to figure out what I wanted to be or wanted to do. Because you can tell me arts, but how do I know it's arts that I want? How do I know it's STEM? I can be good with biology, but I'm really also a good footballer. How do I make the choices and the difference to decide this is what I really want to do and this is the other thing that I want to do? And the humble suggestion I'd like to make is even us as young people, this is our country. If we want to build it, we must all put our hands together to make sure. I'll request, like, for example, if it's doctors, let's go into the classroom. Share with these kids, this is what it means to be a doctor. Right. I request engineers to also share, this is what we want to do. And at Teach for Kenya, one of the things that we do is every year we recruit graduates from diverse academic backgrounds, and we give them a chance to work in these schools, model, coach them, and give them an opportunity to also learn what it means. And this broadens the opportunity, because it's very hard for a child to say, I want to be a doctor if you have never been a doctor. Sometimes you also want to be based on your experience, your exposure, and the things that you want to be. Right. That's why I'll go back to my suggestion that if there's also, in addition to what the government is doing, non-profits like Zizi Africa, and the reason why I'm here is because we're all in the education space, if we continue channeling in the energy, for example, just building on what he's saying, how do we also improve quality so that we're not just making sure that children are transitioning from grade 1 to grade 9, but they are still struggling. You'll find still children in grade 8 not able to do simple class 2, class 3 work. Right. One of the discussion that has been popping up is they want to do away with maths, but at what level, for example? Because you see, you still need numeracy in our day-to-day. You need to be able to count your cash. You need to make sure your books are balanced from time to time, whatever kind of business that you're doing. So how we're also strengthening the foundation numeracy and literacy and science projects, so that to make sure that even if you're specializing in arts, you already have the basics that you need to make sure that you are excelling in whatever it is that you are doing. Beautiful.
And that gets me to these questions that, or perhaps concerns or maybe comments that we get. Honorable Mavisi Fred says, very true, that we have a problem in terms of, getting the CBC correct, that pupils in public school can't compete with their counterparts in the private schools because CBC curriculum was designed for the rich. Wilson Losike says in Turkana County, the teacher-learner ratio is 1 to 102. 102 children or students, one teacher. And then you want to ask yourself, are we doing a proper analysis and review of it? 9 years down, and that some of the things that we learn and we pick, we are adjusting on?
The issue of teachers is such a broad area because this is not a CBC challenge.
It's always been there.
Yeah, it has always been there.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's always been lack of teachers. And now it is lack of teachers and also lack of capacity. Because the teachers could be there, but are they even trained to implement CBC? the answer, of course, is a no. So even in areas where we have enough teachers, the teachers are not able to teach the CBC, competency-based. And worse off are these learners who are in grade 9, grade 7, grade 8, grade 9. Some of them are taught by graduate teachers who have gone through the regular teaching program, do not have an idea of what CBC looks like. These children are going to senior secondary schools. So as we are talking about Turkana having one teacher, we should also be thinking about the rest of the country, that these children, grade 9, are going to grade 10. Are the high school teachers trained on CBC? They do not have an idea what CBC looks like. As we are talking now, schools do not know what students to expect. So of course we talk about pathways and who. Principals do not know which pathway is coming to their schools. So there's a serious challenge of capacity strengthening for these teachers well, we've just been talking about how expensive it is to train teachers.
Right.
Yeah, but how expensive is it to transit a whole lot of learners who have not gone through a system? In the next 3-4 years, they'll be expected to go to the university, and then what? These children have never learned since they were in grade 3. Now we are taking them to high school where they are not they are teachers who are not skilled. So what the government needs to do, and they should do it as now, is to start capacity strengthening of the high school teachers in preparation for the grade 9 learners who are coming to, and also prepare the schools so that the schools are aware who's going for STEM. As my colleagues were talking, I just remembered that I think the more things are changing, the more we are going back to the same old story. Because every parent now wants their children to go to STEM. Who is telling them that, arts, what are the benefits of going for arts? We are talking AI, we are talking ICT will replace who, and if you do not know data, you will not do ABCD. So everybody wants to do tech-related courses. So who is this person who's helping these learners, as we're talking about career enhancement, who's talking to them and telling them, sports as a pathway has these benefits. Arts has these benefits. Social sciences has these benefits. I was talking to a child the other day and they were telling me, I think I'll do social sciences. And I asked, so what are social sciences? And she told me, I'm told that it is something to do with business. So what? Hello? Yeah, it's something to do with business. So you see, that is a child in grade 8. Yeah, that one was in grade 8. So this is a learner who is supposed to be helped to build their career, but they still do not know where they want to go. But when I asked the parent, so where is your child going to? They told me they're going for STEM. Oh, my child is a straight A, they top in class. Actually, they even mentioned the school where the child will go to because that is a STEM school. So who told them that's a STEM school? Yeah, so we must start talking to the teachers now. Capacity, be it in Turkana, because we keep going to those other places, yet the problem is here. The problem is here. So we need to start capacity strengthening teachers and making sure that we have enough teachers to teach these children so that they know what they're learning and what is in for them in the next few years.
Okay.
You know what I find, Linda, is that CBC depends on a very good teacher. For it to work, the one thing we know that there's no shortcut is a very good teacher. Is a well-trained teacher, because it is moving from the way we used to teach on the board and everyone and every child is obedient, listening to me for a whole hour preaching to them, to now learning happening and being driven by learners. And that's complex. Because you have to plan very well, you have to appropriate the learning activities you will plan. You have to plan your materials because every 5 to 10 minutes you'll be shifting to different materials. So that the teachers we have now, who are our generation, who are 844, and all that, for them to shift to this way of facilitating learning, it requires good training. Now, this training cannot happen. The Teacher Service Commission is constrained. They are the ones in charge of training. When you look at the budget allocated, they can only do so much. Bring teachers somewhere for 3 days, and then of course politically claim you have trained them and insist. Because now what do you do? So I think it is unfortunate that we are struggling this way, because what would be expecting, like now when Losika says 102 children, one would expect that in this age of technology, actually that the crisis of teachers being there is becoming less and less, because we're also leveraging on technology. If that teacher who was under a tree on the hill with kids had devices and they're using Starlink internet, they actually can be taught by many other teachers who are not there. So I think we have now to not now continue thinking traditionally that I must transport teachers somewhere. The Teacher Service Commission can be supported to set up a virtual academy, so that after you come for 3 days, because it's only what our budget can whatever, but we know that for the next 3 months, every week, you'll be doing 6 hours of training.
And do you think that would easily and in a very competent way take up the value of human touch and connection?
Not really. No, we are not removing the human touch now. We are just addressing the realities, using opportunities that are available. So we should continue employing more teachers, because when they are not teachers, because of insecurity, those children have rights
to continue education.
Yeah, like any other.
And I remember the COVID-19 times, we learned so much as to, again, the discrepancies and the inequalities that lie.
Let me just come in. At GESI, Global eSchools and Communities Initiative, what we do is we train teachers on use of technology for teaching and learning. So you may find that you have such a large number of teachers, so you don't have to meet with them physically. You can teach them on an online platform. That is what we did 2016, 2021. Yeah, so we were meeting with them, and these teachers to date, they use tech for teaching and learning. So I don't know how difficult it is for even the government to adopt such models, particularly for what we have as GESI. How about approaching GESI, asking GESI, can we use your modules to train these teachers? It is the easiest way out. But the thought of bringing 100 teachers into a hall and taking them through a training may not be feasible. For one day or two. And then you tell them, go back to school and train the others using the cascade model, because the government likes the cascade model. It never works. Yeah.
And they talk about each being, a curriculum for the rich and expensive curriculum. We probably need to look at the general and overall benefit to this, because that is still a problem that we get to struggle with. That is probably the reason why people look at it on lenses of it is expensive and all that. And therefore, we don't get to see, if I'm going to get this money out, this is the kind of value that I'm going to get. Are we making a lot of noise as to that?
You know, like when I hear people saying the other curriculum was better or whatever, then I wonder, wait a minute. What are we saying as Kenyans? Because the crisis we have of youth now is caused by an education that was only working for 10% of the young people. Because the people making noise saying that curriculum was better and all are those of us who are beneficiaries, who are able to get a B, go to the university and all that. If you look at people who went through that curriculum and are thriving through other things, they had to learn that after school. It was not provided for. So as Christine said, this curriculum was actually meant to be better for the poor, but because the teacher is not well trained, that's why you find a teacher sending a homework today evening, bring this tomorrow. But it should work the way Christine said. When we open a school term, we know the kind of projects we are doing this term. So at the beginning of the term, that teacher, because they have prepared, they should call the parents, tell them this time we will require this kind of materials and all that.
Just to add on what you're saying, for you to get that kind of teacher, then it means you also need to make sure that the teaching profession is noble. But you see, the teacher who will be able to do all that is a teacher who is passionate about what he's doing. He really enjoys what he's doing. He did not settle for teaching as the last resort. So how do we also make sure that we are nobilizing the teaching? So that means, of course, it may have ripple effects, but also are we paying our teachers enough? How good are we motivating them to make sure that they are staying in class and they are doing, because you see all that energy to make sure that the child is learner-centered. You know, the education system is learner-centered. We are using locally available resources to make sure that even though you are not able to access certain resources, but this child is still receiving quality education, then it means that teacher also needs to be empowered and not taking him as not as a serious, because you see the way we, like in our country, we normalize medicine, for example.
Right.
That's also a discussion we need to have. How do you also make sure we're also getting the best? That teaching was not like the least option that I had. I tried everything. I did not get. This is the only thing that I'm getting.
But wait a minute. It gets me trying to maybe jog and juggle my mind to remember. Apart from JSS, it's been a minute since we had teachers go on strike. You know those moments when after Daktari, look what teacher, after teacher. It's been a minute. It looks like we're getting it right when it comes to teacher welfare. Or am I wrong?
I can't speak affirmatively or on the other side.
Yeah.
But I think also the counties, especially the revolution of ECD, for example, has brought a lot of difference in terms of how that is happening. But also, I don't know if the government was able to honor its CBA agreement with them. I can't speak on that. But it's been a minute, though.
It's been a minute, unless I've not been reading news right.
CBC is carrying the day.
Okay.
Yeah, it's carrying the day. And there's a little bit of confusion. Why teachers were demanding for more is because, remember, there was competition for grades. So I push my students, they get A's and they do that. Then I deserve.
Yeah.
So now there's still a little bit
above
of
average.
how do you account for meeting expectations? How do you account for exceeding expectation? How do you account for that?
Okay.
Yeah, so there's still a little bit of confusion. I think until they get it, then maybe we'll start hearing of, because CBC, as we're talking, actually makes the teachers' work easy. Yeah.
But beyond the money, there were a couple of things that were under the CBA agreements that we're talking about, including, the cluster of or perhaps the cadres, promotions and all these things. I mean, well, maybe with time we'll get to understand why we actually don't get to see, which is a good thing.
It's a good
the strikes, we have to close, ladies and gentlemen. As we come to a close, as we get you parting shots, perhaps in like 45 seconds, that mathematics is now going to be made a subject that is not compulsory. I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but what do you make of that as we come to a close and your parting shots as well, John?
The problem of mathematics is a problem of quality. If things were working perfectly, by the time you have done 9 years of schooling, then the numeracy Brian was referring to is way covered. So demanding now a person who will go into the arts to have mathematics as a compulsory subject is like demanding of the STEM students to have history as compulsory.
All right.
So it's an issue of quality, because by end of grade 9, only maybe 40 to 50% will have met the expectations.
Okay.
So it means the other half now has to continue, So I think my parting shot is that the president and parliament ought to take this thing seriously. If they don't take CBC implementation seriously, we are going to pay very costly.
Wow.
And the way is, look for an extraordinary mechanism of providing funding for like 5 years, because this infrastructural teacher training is only heavy at the beginning. Then after that, we now go back to the 650 billion. Okay. So the way we had to look for an extraordinary way of doing housing, I'm not saying we tax more, but I'll be very happy if the housing levy turns to CBC levy, because this is
critical.
This is a priority.
Right.
It's about Kenya's future. So, and this is the way to create jobs, because when you have people that are thinking, are solving problems and all that, even jobs creation will not be a big problem. Government will just need now to provide the infrastructure. So we need to double that budget for like 3-4 years, train teachers all well, do the infrastructure stuff, and then after that. So it requires an extraordinary funding mechanism, because if we don't put a budget to it, we will continue singing about these issues, and it's a generation actually going to waste.
All right.
If we continue seeing the things. So in the next 10 years, then we'll expect to now be paying
All right.
for this negligence.
Okay. As we come to a close.
Yeah, I think the government needs to take education very seriously because those statements that are passed, oh, mathematics is going to be, is it optional or, yeah. So when we are talking in education today, we are talking a lot about foundational literacy, numeracy. Now, when you come up and tell me that mathematics is not going to be a priority beginning today, so what are we talking about? And is it, so from grade what? So this side talks, because they send very wrong messages to everybody. Yeah, who decides what is happening in the education space? Because if we are educators, we do not know. We also just hear.
Right.
So there should be a serious, a very good engagement and also forms of communication in matters relating to education. So that when I'm talking about mathematics being an optional or mathematics not being or whatever it is, then I should have an evidence or I should have a document to back up what I'm talking about.
Right.
And also some research that has been carried to confirm that indeed it is not relevant. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I think my thoughts will be we all need to take education seriously. If we just wait for the government to do this, then it's our future that we are tampering upon. It is our healthcare that we are tampering upon. It's our governance that we are tampering upon. So my question is, how can we all make sure that we are contributing in addition to what the government is doing? Yes, the government may get the funding that it needs, but how is the engineer thinking? Can we get even more stable structure? If an engineer will think, this infrastructure is a problem, how can we build good structures at low cost in those schools? How is a nutritionist thinking? Because you can't teach an hungry child. How will we make sure that they have food? So how can we all make sure that we are contributing? If you don't just say we are blaming the government hasn't done, but also how can we create solutions that can help? Because you see, if you're in Turkana, I'm sure there are graduates from that place. I'm curious to see what are the things that you are thinking. How can we help improve our community? Everyone, we all have a part to play, because you see, education still remains to be one of the powerful tools we can use to change the world.
Right.
I'm sure the reason why we are here, even in this discussion, is because of some reason we were educated at some point.
Yeah.
Huge reason.
Someone was saying, even the Gen Z, the protests that happened recently, these are the effects of the free education that Kibaki did. You know, he empowered the people, and now they can be able to do that. They were able to see problems. It's the same people, if we empower them, if we don't take care of making sure that we educate this next generation, because it's projected that by 2050, Africa will have the largest population of people who are working. Every 1 out of 4 people working in the world will be coming from Africa. Now, if we don't give them the right tools that they need to create solutions, then that means we'll just be increasing poverty, we'll be increasing crime, we will be increasing ill health. So we all need to do something to make sure that we are solving. So I'm just challenging us, in addition to blaming the government, because sometimes that's what we normally do, let's also individually make sure that we go to, we are contributing. If you know of someone who looks up to you, tell them about these career choices.
Right.
If it's an engineer, think about how we can create solutions.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And reality is that we keep talking about the competency-based curriculum as though it's still a new thing. 9 years and counting, we are past the teething problems.
Yeah.
We really must decide on whether we want to get it right or not.
Sure.
Conversation is bigger than our time, but that should not stop us from, continuing the conversation. It continues on our social media platforms and in various spaces that you are in. Let us talk, like you rightfully say, Busiri, that we need to enlighten our kids. We need to continue talking, because then this is likely a collective, responsibility. We do not want to see the students that we have today, crying in the future or crying in the future to say that those ones were wasted years. It will not benefit us in any form. I appreciate your time. That is John Mugo, the ED, Executive Director of Zizi Africa. I also appreciate Christina Kelo, the Educations Program Officer at JC, as well as Brian Bosire, Head of Play Tech for Kenya, or Teach for Kenya. But what is Head of Play Teach for Kenya? We have to close very fast.
Learners to learn through play, especially in ECD, because play comes naturally to them.
Yes.
So how do we use play to make sure they're also learning and they're increasing in their foundational literacy, and even science.
That too much work makes
Yes,
dull
but
boy.
actually,
Classic.
if we enjoy play, how can we make play work for us?
So that too much play does not make Jack a lazy boy. All right, thank you so much for your time. We'll close it at this very point as we look forward to continue engaging on this. My name is Linda Alela. Catherine Simaloi was assisting me on the sign language interpreter side, as well as the entire team that has made the broadcast a success. We appreciate them, and we get to see you again next week. Bye-bye.